Welcome back, my friends. My name is Ron Rogers, welcoming you to the Business Blueprint Podcast. And it's the podcast that makes you think, asks you tough questions, and more importantly, makes you do stuff. That's the important stuff here, especially when it comes to business. So if you're a new listener, I want to say thanks for joining us today. If you're a returning listener, I want to say thank you very much for putting your faith and confidence in me and coming back to listen to what I have to say. For those that are not familiar with the Business Blueprint Podcast, it's for business owners. It's for people that are creators, people that are inspirers, doers, people that want to create and own businesses, the people that want to grow a business and make money. This podcast is not for people that feel like they're comfortable where they are, people that aren't looking for new customers, they're not looking for a better way. Okay, all of that type of language really just baffles me, because what did you get into business for in the first place if you're not trying to make your business better, you're not trying to attract new customers, and you're not trying to grow your business? All right, so if you are somebody that does want to grow a business, then you're in the right place. You need this podcast. If you're always busy but you're just getting by, if you're always cutting back and you're not looking for ways to make your business better, do me a favor. Give this podcast a try for 1 month. And follow my social networks and everything, and I'd like to hear the results that you have at the end of it. But anyways, just keep in mind, you've got to take my words and my ideas, and you have to make them work in your company. I can't do the work for you. I can just pass along the information, things that are tested, tried, true methods that work in business, they work in marketing, they work in sales. So long story short, if you like to make money, and you're not afraid to roll your sleeves up and get your hands dirty, this podcast is absolutely for you. They say that you attract customers that are just like you, so I'm looking for business owners that enjoy providing outstanding service, that enjoy helping people. I'm looking for the ones that are always creating, the ones that have a desire to work and network with other business owners to create that tribe. So enough about me and my podcast. Let's talk about you and the main topic of this episode of the Business Blueprint. I was talking with one of my customers recently, and they told me that the boss always had great ideas, but he never followed through with anything. And as we got to talking more about that, he also uncovered that their revenue hadn't really changed much in the years that they've been in business. He also went on to explain that they would have the roller coaster type seasons where they would have a few good months and then it would lull out for a few months. And up to that point, they had never really broke the mold or crossed the threshold or whatever other cliche you want to use. And I think that's pretty common in any business. Tons of people have great ideas, but not a lot of people have the balls to make it happen, right? If you ask 10 of your friends about their job, I'd be willing to bet 6 out of 10 are going to start complaining. They're going to start talking about the things they would change if they were in charge. And to be fair, they probably do have some pretty good ideas, but good ideas come from terrible processes and people that are passionate enough to start offering solutions. My question is, what's stopping those people from taking that leap of faith, right? Why are so many great ideas dying a slow and unheard of, unknown death? I think it all comes down to the human element. And that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about why so many businesses are left to die before they ever begin. We're going to talk about some of the common excuses that people use to convince themselves they either can't be a business owner or they're not competitive enough. By the end of this podcast, I want you to feel inspired. Okay, I want you to feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I want you to have all the resources that other companies have, and if you can't have them, I want it to look like you do have them. Basically, I'm going to give you some really great resources, and even at the end of this podcast, I'm going to give you a link to some free resources as well. So stick around, and let's get started. If you ask me what the problem is, I can honestly say I believe the answer is fear. It's fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the unknown. It's our acute stress response, better known as the fight or flight response, and it kicks in and it says, you don't know what you're doing. You are not qualified to do this. Someone else already does this, and they're way better at it than you could ever be. So what do? We do what we've always done. We ignore the inner voice, we throw away the dreams, and we go back to building someone else's dreams. We trade our time for their money, again. And if you haven't listened to that podcast of mine, go ahead and do that when this one's over. It's a really good one. But people don't understand. Doing nothing is still a choice. If you have an idea and you're confident with that idea, you can either choose to develop the idea or you can choose to throw it away and do nothing about it. I believe uncertainty is the gateway to success. See, once you make the decision to move forward, you'll discover that you'll always have the same problems that you have right now. You cannot just throw away all of the problems of the world, right? There is no getting away from problems. If you're the type of person that likes to put off your problems, you probably have noticed that when you avoid small problems, they eventually create bigger problems. And guess what happens then? You still have to deal with the damn problem, right? You still have to solve it. The biggest problem you'll overcome is created by the man or the woman in the mirror. Okay, we have self-doubt, we have uncertainty. It's always going to be there. And trust me when I tell you, folks, I have spent countless nights wide awake wondering how the hell I'm going to pay a bill, make the rent, make the car payment. I eventually came to terms with all of that and just started getting up and going to work, right? If I can't sleep, I'm at least going to be productive. But again, see, I made the decision to start solving problems. And you can do the same thing. And it starts with trying to figure out what your problems are right now, right? Are you sick of your job? Are you underpaid and overworked, right? We hear that one all the time. Maybe you're unemployed for the 28th straight month and you finally just given up, right? Maybe you're one of the ones that are working 2 or 3 jobs just to barely get by and make ends meet. Okay, what is stopping you from saying, you know what? I'm done. Screw it. I've had enough. I'm not living like this anymore. Let me tell you a quick story about my business. I worked for a company that didn't take me seriously. Okay, they hired me because they loved my potential, they loved my track record, my resume was great, I had the perfect background for this job, right? They knew I was going to do great things for them, and honestly, I really wanted to. And then it happened. They didn't take me seriously, they didn't listen to my ideas, they didn't treat me like I was a valuable member of their team. Their words said that they felt that way about me, but their actions indicated something totally different. So basically, I felt like they just wouldn't let me fly. What they did was they drove away a great asset, a great company employee, right? So when I started my company, I did so with a little over $500. I had a good idea, I knew my niche market, and I had balls the size of church bells. My resources were extremely limited or non-existent. Okay, I had a pickup truck, I had a slow old 3-year-old laptop computer, and I had a cell phone. I knew I was angry. I knew that I was determined. I knew I was living on borrowed time and $500, and I knew I was clueless. But the important part was I was still trying. Okay, in the back of my mind, I knew I was outgunned. I knew I didn't have resources. I didn't even have an office. I mean, in fact, my business name was probably the dumbest thing that you've ever heard. I knew it was stupid at the time. I went with Raj Corp. It was a combination of my last name, which is spelled with a D, so that's effed up anyways, right? RODGCORP, all one word. That's how I would explain it, right? Corp, like I was some kind of like corporation, right? Raj Corp. I got the idea by watching The League. So I needed a business name. I picked one as quick as possible just so I could start doing business. And guess what? People didn't care. They still did business with a guy whose business was influenced by a fictional television stoner, right? So, and if you've ever watched the show, We All Love Taco. But it's a horrible business name. I remember thinking to myself, I have a pathetic business name. I have no office. Nobody's going to meet with me, right? And if they do, what if they want to meet at my office or see my showroom? I don't have one of those. So I started thinking, how can I fix that? Okay, I was using my cell phone. It had awful reception, and I felt it made me look like an amateur. Okay, I had eventually turned one half of a spare bedroom into a working office, and during the day, my 2 dogs, They would bark at every gust of wind, every person that walked past the house. When the mailman showed up, one of the dogs wanted to like physically destroy the mailman, and would make just the worst noise you ever heard. So all of that stuff that kept making me look like a small timer. And believe me, I wanted to die every time I had a hot prospect on the phone and I had to apologize for, quote unquote, the office greeter. Right? In sales, it's all about spin, and that was my spin. I had my dogs in the office. Crazy, right? The last part of the story that I want to share with you guys is that all of that wasn't so long ago at all. Okay, as a matter of fact, at the time of this recording, I've been in business 2 years. All right. Not only am I surviving, but I'm growing. Okay, trust me, guys, I'm not a Cinderella story. I am a regular guy doing the same stuff that you do and the same things that I used to do on a day-to-day basis for someone else. But now the difference is I do them for myself, and you are much more willing to put the hard work in when you're working for you and not someone else. So why do I share that story with you? Well, first off, I can't hide from my past, and you can't hide from yours. Not to mention, you can't hide from the present, okay? If you don't have the resources, don't be ashamed of it. You just have to get creative, okay? Turn it into a positive. I tell people all the time, creative is what you get when you don't have money. I had to get creative to make my first few deals happen, all right? Painful story that I remember. I pawned a custom guitar worth close to $2,000 just so I had the money to make my first inventory purchase, which it was an entry-level phone system, and it scored me a fat plush $300 profit. Yeah, so it's all about problem solving, and I knew that I needed to make that deal happen, so I did. By any means necessary, but I still made it happen. And after it happened, I got the guitar out of Hawk, I made the $300, and then I reinvested that money into the company. When I say reinvested into the company, what I mean by that is I paid bills so that I could still operate. All right. If you're having doubts about yourself, if you're having doubts about your company because you're in a similar situation, my advice is get over it. All right. We all have limitations. Do me a favor. Well, it's not me a favor. Do you a favor. Google search businesses or popular businesses that started off in a garage. Okay, on that list, you're going to see Amazon, you'll see Apple, Disney, Google, Harley-Davidson, HP, Mattel, the toy company, Yankee Candle. All right, great examples of companies with humble beginnings. Okay, look at them now. Are they better than you? What made them successful? After all, they started in a situation just like yours, maybe, or a situation just like mine. Okay, and we all have problems. We all work our problems out. It starts by making a plan and then holding yourself accountable to that plan. If you're just firing rounds into the darkness, nothing's going to happen. Or you just spend a lot of time working and never figuring out if you're growing, if you're failing, whatever. Okay, if you need a fancy accounting software to operate, make it a goal for the future, right? If you hold your dreams up until you can afford QuickBooks, it's an excuse, okay? I can tell you right now, I didn't have QuickBooks when I started. I had Excel. And if you don't have Excel, there's a free resource out there called, I think it's called Open Office. I'll check on that, and I'll put it in the checklist that you're going to get here at the end of the podcast. But it's free software, okay, Open Office is, and it looks just like Microsoft Excel. You can do accounting in Excel. Okay, or if push comes to shove, you have a pencil, you have paper, you have a calculator. Just put in a little sweat equity until you can afford to get your software. Okay, if you need business cards, use freebies from Vistaprint. Make a small quantity order. Who cares if if people are going to know that they were free? You want to know what's going to happen? The nonverbals, what people are going to see from that free business card is they're not seeing a small timer. They're seeing a guy or a girl that's busting their ass. They're out there. They're hustling. They're doing it. They think about it. You recognize when somebody is on a hustle, right? When somebody is doing everything they can for you and trying to get things done. Okay. Other people see that too, and guess what? They are willing to give you a shot. They're willing to lend a hand and help out. The point is, you have to do something. If you wait until you can afford everything or until you have all of your ducks in a row, you're never going to get started. You're going to keep putting it off. You're going to keep telling yourself that you'll do it someday. Okay, you have to take the leap of faith. In order to make a change and find results, you've got to do something. Okay, going back to the customer I talked about at the beginning of the show, they bought a $10,000 printer from me because they knew it would give them an ability that they didn't have before. They also knew that their profit margin would more than double instantly because they were no longer the middleman. They didn't have to lose profit by taking the work to another print shop and paying their costs and then upselling a little bit, right? And see how easy it can be? People say, "Oh, it takes money to make money." Wrong. That's not accurate at all. It takes decisive action to make money. And if you don't have the money to get something that you need, find a way, work harder, and eventually you'll have it. And listen to the Money, Excuse, or Reason episode of my podcast, and that will reinforce what I'm saying here. The point is, guys, don't be afraid of taking action. You would be absolutely blown away if you knew the number of companies that are presently operating either from a spare bedroom, a basement, a garage, a closet, a shed in the backyard, even the mini storage places. Around here we have Daryl's, but I know there are other ones all throughout, like Public Storage. Even U-Haul has indoor storage units. So those places are flooded with companies that are operating, and they're people, again, just like you. So the place that houses your office, it's a detail. Okay, there are plenty of resources available to help a young business grow. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you access to a checklist that's full of resources that are going to help make your home-based business or garage business look much, much larger than it is. These are lessons I learned by doing and talking to other doers, other small business owners that are working outside in their garage or in a shed or a storage unit, etc. Okay? Things that maybe you haven't thought of, or things that you have thought of but you've been too afraid to try. Okay? It's an alternative perspective, and it's a checklist that you can follow to help build yourself some success. You can find it on my website. Go to ProPrintingSystems.com. Click on the Learn tab. It's going to make you register to become a member, but if you're a first-time visitor, once you register, you just sign in for the future, and you're a member of my member of my site. So don't worry, your information is safe. I'm not going to sell you to anyone. All you're giving me is your name and your email anyways. And then once you're in, you can download the checklist, you can take my online courses, and you can see a whole lot of other really cool stuff that's in the members area. So, but essentially, like I said, it's a checklist that's going to help you start to make your small business look much larger and look like you're a stronger competitor against your larger competitors. So let's recap what we discussed today. I shared a brief history of my company with you. You can stop laughing now. I do come from humble beginnings, but that's what helped my growth and my success, and I feel that any small business is exactly the same way. Okay, we talked about using the resources that you have available right now and creating a plan for success. We talked about taking action and just getting started, right? Doing something. More importantly, we talked about some very famous companies that also started the same way that you started or are planning to start, or maybe you're still currently operating that way. Those success stories should be enough to keep your spirits high, even when the nights are sleepless, long, cold, dreary, etc. And lastly, go to my website, ProPrintingSystems.com, click on the Learn tab, sign up for access to the member area, and download the checklist for small business. While you're on the website, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my Facebook page, and check out my blog. It means a lot to me, and I will return the favor if you have the same resources. If you don't have any of that stuff, you can email me. It's Ron at iknowron.com, and let me know, and we will take care of business. That is all there is for this episode. If you enjoyed this podcast or you learned something, just imagine what else I can do for your company. So follow me, not like in a stalker way, but on social media. And if you're serious about growing your business, if you're serious about making money, if you want to talk about print printing, print advertising, automation, efficiency, growing a profit margin, email me. Again, it's ron@iknowron.com. We can talk more about your company and specifically the opportunities you have available to you. This is Ron Rogers with the Business Blueprint Podcast. Checking out. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.